What is happening, YouTube? We just recently finished the Ironman 70.3 year solo pro series. A lot of things I learned, a lot of things went wrong, so my training is going to change and alter, and I'm going to show you now exactly what my training targets are for the next 6 months and how I'm going to achieve them. Let's have a look. So some things we already saw from my advisor. We checked that months before, but we also did now, we downloaded all my data from Training Peaks from the last 2 years, and then later as well more, and we plugged it all into ChatGPT, actually the pro version, and it analyzes all the things in detail, gives you extra bit of objective feedback. But it basically all resonated to, first of all, what I believe, instincts. That's something you should anyways always listen to, especially if you're an athlete that's been training for a while. Do not ignore your instincts. Like, they're very valuable and they're almost always right. If you have this gut feeling about something, for example, I had this gut feeling that these higher ends, something about this higher power pushing, it felt right. It's something I haven't done. I've done all this aerobic work and all these things, but when I also look back, that we checked it with, for example, ChatGPT, it was clear as day. I spent, when you look at the data from the last 2 years, and before that as well, I spent very little time in zone 4 and zone 5. So your threshold zone, and you can call it VO2 max zone or higher power zones, over your anaerobic threshold, so over the pace you can hold for an hour on the bike or over your 10K pace in running, and I spent very little time there. So if you want to lift your ceilings, so let's say you want to run quicker, you want to cycle quicker, swim quicker, you need to spend time in this so-called zone 4 and zone 5 if you want to get faster. I mean, aerobic is very important and there's a time and place for that, and depending where you are in your journey, like lifting aerobic, the so-called LT1 aerobic threshold, that might actually do a lot for you for your half and full distance. For me, I've been doing that a lot, but my ceiling, and that was kind of clear as day shown in the race now in the half distance, the ceiling is just way too low, and that ceiling of actual LT2, so your anaerobic threshold, for all 3 sports basically, is just too low, right? And in order to improve that, you need to work on your zone 4, zone 5 a lot more. So we started doing that since last September only, started integrating that regularly, differently, more. I had different coaches before, we always touched it, but percentage-wise, still a very low amount. So a little debrief of my last months of training. Since September basically, I've been working a 3-week load rhythm, 1 week easy. The 3 weeks load were always 25 hours, 80K run volume, 5 times swimming, and then cycling also 10 to 11 hours. Anyways, none of it was wrong. All of it is in me, and we already worked at for 3 blocks in a row. That's why we shifted away from that. We worked at VO2 on the bike, and I felt so amazing. If you saw the older videos, felt so good. I felt like each time I got strong, I didn't like zap me what you would think. For example, the VO2 sets on the bike that I did was 5 times 6 minutes, and I did them eventually at 400 watts. It was just getting stronger. But then we decided to alter away from the ceiling work, also because the race season's coming, and then to work on the middle end, and we started doing the threshold, set 6 times 15 minutes threshold on a bike, did that between 330 and 350 watts, just that I have under 3.5 mole in lactate and it's not too hard, you're working aerobically. For some reason I felt, even when reading it, that's something like an instinct. If you read a training plan and you have a certain gut feeling to it, like I'm not sure if this is gonna make me better, listen to that gut feeling. Because I had that feeling. It was not wrong at all, it's 100% correct on paper. I just felt I should do more of the VO2, but we rotated away from that because it's very common that after certain blocks people plateau with those type of things, and it's all right and dandy. But for me personally, we gotta lift that ceiling a lot more without neglecting aerobic work and all that. So let's have a look what my training plan will look like for the next 6 months for sure. So the general workload will stay more or less the same with some tweaks. So I'm gonna stay at the weekly volume of 25 hours. That's more than plenty for enough of my journey right now. Then we're gonna stay at the swim volume, but instead of 5 swims, we're gonna spread it to 4. So what that does is each swim is bigger, between 5 and 6K, but it allows more arm recovery. And in general, each time I swim, it's gonna be a fresher, better swim. A bit windy here, I hope the camera stays. Running wise, it's going perfectly. Aerobically stronger, my LT1 increased to 345 minute per K pace, aerobically good. LT2 is 329 minute per K pace for my recent lab test. Again, the ceiling's way too low, 330 minute per K pace. I had that for the last 10 years. So aerobically I'm getting stronger, same in a bike, same in a swim. The ceiling just gotta lift more, obviously. So we're gonna keep doing that. We're gonna build the run volume to 100K weeks. The main load comes through more easy running. The main key sessions will be on my Tuesday, so remains. I sent the whole program to overload, you can have a look here. The Tuesday will remain, it's my key set, and there will alternate most likely between 1 block threshold, 1 block VO2 work, and then the other session that is bigger, it's say the long run, I'll keep them at 32K, but make sure that I get closer to my LT1 paces, which at this moment is 345 pace, but of course I want to get that within 6 months to 335 minute per K pace, somewhere in there, maybe 330 even. I think I can do this with this run volume and how long I've been running. Now comes to the bike. That's something that especially itched me about the race, because when I started cycling, I was from day one, to be honest, considered by coaches, whatever, they say, oh, you're a beast, you're naturally ripped. From day one, boom, 330 watts threshold, strong, good things. I did all the things back then, from strength stimulus we had in the system when I started, to neuromuscular power, all the things. And then it kind of shifted away to stuff that just didn't make you really strong. Like I did all the aerobic work, so I have my 10 years plus of cycling with mitochondria building and all this stuff. I have all that in me. The limiting factor is, without a doubt, the ceiling. General concept of this plan is going to be more condensed in a sense that I have less sessions per week with the same load volume, but they will allow more recovery. So most days before I had 3 sessions, and if you have 3 sessions, just the way it's structured, you have very little time for recovery compared to the other stuff. Okay, so we're going to condense biking to 4 sessions instead of 5. Each of them still 10 hours of volume, they will stay, but 1 session will be threshold, 1 VO2 in short, 1 LT1 work, where I try to work that with the lactate measurement as well, try to build that up. I did this a lot of 270 watts, gonna build that up that I can do 300, 320 without any lactate rise, which is important for LT1 work. And then the last session is, there's something new, I go back to old roots a little bit. There will be big gear work, but I did a lot of 60 cadence big gear work for endless years, but I did only that, which is kind of some approaches that also didn't cut it because you don't build a ceiling, but it helped with neuromuscular activation. So I'm going to do both models in that 4-hour ride. So meaning I do the 40 cadence models where you have, let's say, 4 times 4 minutes at 95% of your threshold, so more or less, so it's harder, but with 40 cadence, so it's quite a lot of torque, then some rest, and then later in that ride, I'm gonna do the classic one, where you have, let's say, 3 times 15 minutes at a low percentage of your threshold, let's say 71.3 tempo effort, 60 cadence. So there's some more aerobic capabilities in that set, and a little break, and then at the end of the 4-hour ride, I'll have neuromuscular sprints. So I got the whole shebang in there now, and I'm 100% confident that doing more condensed allows, even just looking at the plan now, allows a lot more recovery. So recovery is much more built in. Just reading this plan now, looking at it, while there are new stimuli in there, that's so I'm gonna start with a lower volume of those stimuli in those sessions, and rather start too little with the interval duration, but put it all in and do more on the next block than overcook it. So I'd rather start with too short. So for example, threshold, I'm gonna do 3 times 20 minutes of threshold before I did 90. So it's quite a bit of a drop down. And then a VO2, I'll still check all of this with my advisor again to get some good feedback objectively, but I just feel like it's impossible not to get strong with this. You'll be along for the ride. That's it for this video. Any questions, let me know. See you later.